Ever wondered how the history of classical architecture took place? The classical era is a fascinating era indeed, and the most interesting part to me is their use of construction techniques combined with custom-style decorations. Today we will talk about the Palace of Justice, which is based in South Africa and located in Pretoria. The building has played host to many important trials, including the Rivonia trial of 1964, at which Nelson Mandela and other prominent persons were sentenced to life imprisonment. But first you need to know about classical architecture. What is classical architecture? Design and architecture reached the Senate and was declared as the center of the ancient Greek world. It was a time when people believed that they understand the relation of the man to the gods. In the heart of ancient Greek philosophy regarding the natural environment was a conviction that when man made an architectural intervention, whether it be a temple, theatre or house, that they must respect the landscape of the gods. Greeks believed that guardian spirits stood within each part of the landscape, so ceremony was hosted for each individual building constructed to remain in harmony between man and nature. The people lived intimately with their temples and shrines as a reminder of the relation between man and the gods. A building was a mixture between open and closed spaces, providing a contrast between light and shade. An element of history was reinforced through an architectural space. This indicates their careful study in the architectural arts, executing what they believed were buildings of the gods. The three architectural systems ancient Greeks used are named after the community of people who developed them, and they are the Doric, the Ionic, and Corinthian orders, and each had a distinct political purpose and a symbol of their power and pride. The Doric column was first discovered in Greece and was used for great temples like the Parthenon of Athens. Simple Ionic columns were used for smaller temples and building interiors. The Greeks easily adapted from constructing with timber to constructing with stone. The Parthenon was constructed of Pentelic marble, and today its optical refinements are much admired. They include irregular spacing of its columns, which tilt inward while appearing to be straight to the naked eye. You can't get away from classical architecture. It's been around for more than 2,000 years, and its basic designing rules has been used to this day to combine modern with classical architecture. Classical forms are so deeply lodged into our collective subconscious that every time an architect designs a building with their own columns, square or round, and puts a beam over them, there seems to be something classical about it. Some contemporary architects like Eric Harry say this is deliberate, while others, like David Chipperfield, claimed it isn't. Few architects will condemn architectural buildings from the past as to give their buildings some sort of classical pedigree. Many claim they've used classical proportion and ideas very often. Now, to the surprise of many, the traditional construction of the source of classical designs turns out to be the most sustainable. Most architects may or may not have abandoned it, but in the wider world, the classical language is still alive and well. A language is only dead when no one uses it. The overwhelming desire for design and building classical houses has been established beyond doubt. Classical architectural rules were written down by Pretoria in the 1st century AD. Building Gothic architecture is very different from the building style ruled by order and control. The style spread all over Europe, and illustrated books were written which constantly tried to rewrite and bend the rules. But the base of these rules is found in the temple ruins in Greece and across the Roman Empire. until the rise of ancient Greece to the fall of the Roman Empire. Great buildings were constructed according to precise rules. Roman architect Marcus Vitruvius lived in the 1st century BC and believed builders should use math principles when constructing temples. The only 2 rules you should know about are 1. You must apply mathematical harmony through proportions, and 2. You must use these orders correctly. Order is defined as the use of column styles and intabulature designs. The important parts to look at and identify which orders are being used are the orders, capital, and the frieze. So here we are at the Palace of Justice in Pretoria, which was built in the 18th century and is a great example of how the Dutch actually knew how to apply these classical architectural rules. Here we have a Gothic pointed arch. The Corinthian columns, here you can see it is in proportion to the building as a whole. It was Zeitze's best ever creation in my opinion, and perhaps came as his first example of a fully classical building with mastered proportions and design. He used these giant Corinthian pilasters and superimposed a triangular pediment temple front design onto an arch composition. The design was especially made for this specific building, as classical architecture still has strong association with Gothic architecture. You can see some of these principles being used for the exterior design and decorations. Even though this building uses relatively few columns, its sensitivity to proportions and occasional references to antiquity means that it is still classical. In the 18th century, the surge of interest in antiquity caused a great number of people all over the world to want buildings like this. It spread fast and people started constructing buildings like houses, libraries, law courts, churches and many more, using fascinating designs and concepts. The architect named Zeitze Wopkes Vierdahl was born in the Netherlands. He was renowned as the first government architect and engineer for the South African Republic. Over the 14 years of working for the government, he and his team developed the Republican style, also known as the eclectic Wilhelmines, designing numerous significant buildings. His exact town of birth is unknown, and even his architectural education is unclear, though it is known that he was originally schooled to be a carpenter. The superb Vierdahl in the Centurion is named after him. On 8 June 1897, the foundation stone of the Palace of Justice was laid by Paul Creer with the usual formalities. The Palace of Justice cost estimate 1 million rand, and the contractor was John Monroe, at that time Pretoria's leading builder. The interior is resplendent with polished wood brass, stained glass, tiled floors, and the many trappings that were the prestige symbols of an emergent state during the later years of the 19th century. Built in the eclectic Wilhelmine style with Italian influences, the construction of the Palace of Justice was interrupted by the Anglo-Boer War, with the final fittings and decorations only being completed in 1901. Thanks for joining me, and I hope that you would consider including classical architecture next time you design a house or a building. Hope you have enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.